Kristen Trickle was born on August 14, 1993, in a small town in southeastern Nebraska. Her early years were marked by hardship and loss. When Kristen was just a toddler, her biological mother left the family, moving to California with another man and completely cutting off contact. This sudden abandonment left Kristen's father, James, to raise her alone. James was a devoted father who worked tirelessly to provide for his daughter and make sure she lacked nothing. He took on both parental roles, offering her love and stability despite the emotional and financial challenges they faced. James's health was a constant concern. He suffered from a severe illness that progressively worsened over time. Despite his declining health, he continued to care for Kristen, determined to give her a stable and loving home. Kristen, in turn, became his little helper, learning to be independent and resilient from a young age. She helped with household chores and took on responsibilities that many children her age wouldn't normally have to consider. As Kristen approached her teenage years, her father's condition deteriorated further. When she turned 16, James's illness finally claimed his life, leaving Kristen an orphan. This loss was devastating for her. With no immediate family to turn to in her small Nebraska town, she faced an uncertain future. The possibility of being sent to a shelter loomed over her, adding to the emotional burden of losing her father. Kristen's early life was shaped by these profound losses and challenges, yet they also forged her into a strong and determined young woman, ready to face whatever came next. With no close relatives nearby, Kristen faced the possibility of being sent to a shelter. However, a lifeline came from an aunt and uncle who lived in neighboring Kansas. Despite already raising 3 children of their own, they did not hesitate to take Kristen in. They welcomed her into their home, treating her as if she were one of their own children. This act of kindness and generosity provided Kristen with the family support she desperately needed. In her new home, Kristen flourished. She quickly adapted to her new environment and bonded with her cousins. Her aunt and uncle made sure she felt loved and included, surrounding her with the care and support that had been missing after her father's death. Kristen's new family environment allowed her to thrive in ways she hadn't been able to before. She excelled in school, showing a keen interest in her studies and maintaining high grades. Her passion for the arts led her to attend art studio classes, where she could express her creativity and develop her talents. Kristen's dream of becoming a veterinary doctor also took root during this time. She had always loved animals, and now she had the stability and encouragement to pursue this passion seriously. She talked about her ambitions with her new family, and they supported her wholeheartedly, believing in her potential to achieve her dreams. Kristen's new family was deeply religious and regularly attended church every Sunday. This weekly ritual became a cornerstone of Kristen's life, providing her with a sense of community and belonging. It was within these church walls, at the age of 18, that she met Colby. Colby was an aspiring musician who played the guitar in the church band. He was also 18, and his talent was evident to everyone who heard him play. He had big dreams of pursuing a music career, a passion that resonated deeply with Kristen. Their first meeting was serendipitous. Kristen had always enjoyed the music played during the services, but when she saw Colby perform, something clicked. His music had a way of speaking to her, and she found herself drawn to him. They started talking after the services, sharing their interests and dreams. Their friendship quickly blossomed into something more. They spent hours discussing their hopes for the future, with Kristen sharing her dream of becoming a veterinary doctor and Colby talking about his passion for music. Colby's talent on the guitar was matched by his skill as a songwriter. He began dedicating his music to Kristen, writing songs that captured their blossoming romance. His heartfelt lyrics and melodies resonated with her, deepening their connection. Kristen found herself captivated by his music and the sincerity behind it. Colby's songs were more than just music to her, they were expressions of his feelings and dreams. Their relationship grew stronger with each passing day. They supported each other in their respective pursuits, with Kristen attending Colby's performances and Colby encouraging Kristen in her studies. Their bond was built on mutual respect, shared dreams, and a deep understanding of each other's passions. Their love story was one that began in the most unexpected place but quickly became a central part of both their lives. After graduating from high school, Colby made the significant decision to join the army, dedicating himself to serving his country. Over the next 3 years, he built a respectable military career, displaying discipline and commitment in every task. Despite the demands of military life, Colby and Kristen's bond remained strong. They stayed connected through frequent phone calls and heartfelt letters, sharing their experiences and dreams. This communication became a lifeline for both of them, strengthening their relationship despite the physical distance. At the age of 21, Colby's military journey took a new turn. He decided to enter the reserves, a move that allowed him to return home and pursue other passions. Upon his return, Colby was determined to solidify his relationship with Kristen. He proposed to her, and she joyfully accepted. Their wedding took place in April 2014, marking the beginning of a new chapter in their lives. After their marriage, Colby and Kristen settled in the small town of Hays, Kansas. Colby was eager to rekindle his passion for music and sought to establish a career in the industry. At the same time, he was committed to furthering his education and enrolled in college. Balancing his studies with his musical pursuits, Colby worked hard to achieve his goals. Kristen, always supportive, stood by his side, encouraging him every step of the way. Their life in Hays was filled with new experiences and opportunities. Colby performed at local venues, sharing his music with the community and building a loyal following. His songs, often inspired by his love for Kristen and his experiences in the military, resonated with many. Meanwhile, Kristen continued to pursue her dream of becoming a veterinary doctor, finding fulfillment in her studies and her growing relationship with Colby. Their journey was not without challenges, but their love and dedication to each other helped them navigate through tough times. 5 years into their marriage, Colby and Kristen seemed to be living a happy life together. They had settled into their routines in Hays, Kansas, with Colby pursuing his music career and Kristen working towards her dream of becoming a veterinary doctor. They were well liked in the community, and their friends and family often remarked on how close and supportive they were of each other. But on Halloween Eve in 2019, their lives took a sudden and tragic turn. In the early hours of the morning, around 4 a.m., a frantic call was made to emergency services. Colby, with a shaking voice, reported that Kristen had shot herself. Within minutes, medical and police teams arrived at their home, finding Kristen in critical condition. Despite the swift response and immediate medical efforts, Kristen's injuries were too severe. She was rushed to the hospital, but tragically, she passed away. The initial assumption was that it was a tragic case of suicide. The circumstances seemed straightforward at first glance, and the grief-stricken Colby appeared devastated by the loss of his wife. However, as the investigators began their work, they noticed some inconsistencies in the scene and in Colby's account of what happened. Detectives carefully combed through the house, looking for clues that might explain the events leading up to Kristen's death. As they dug deeper, their suspicions grew. Certain details didn't quite add up, and the possibility of foul play couldn't be ignored. Kristen's sudden and unexpected death left the community in shock. She had been a vibrant part of their lives, known for her kindness and dedication. As the investigation unfolded, people who knew Kristen and Colby were left with more questions than answers. When the emergency teams arrived, they found Kristen nearly undressed, lying on the bed with a large revolver placed on her abdomen. This immediately struck detectives as odd. Kristen, known to be a gentle and caring person, was not someone who handled guns, especially not a revolver of that size, which seemed too large and cumbersome for her. As detectives began their detailed investigation, they noted several inconsistencies. The position of the gun was unusual. If Kristen had indeed shot herself, the gun would likely not have ended up resting neatly on her abdomen. This discrepancy raised immediate red flags for the investigators, who were trained to look for such anomalies in their cases. Moreover, Kristen's actions in the hours leading up to her death did not align with the idea of a planned suicide. She had been enthusiastically preparing for Halloween, a holiday she loved. Decorations were still strewn around the house, and her costume lay ready for the next day's celebrations. These preparations indicated that Kristen had every intention of participating in the festivities. Detectives continued to gather evidence and interview those close to Kristen. They pieced together a picture of her final days, trying to understand what could have led to such a tragic end. As they delved deeper, the notion of suicide seemed increasingly unlikely, and the possibility of foul play grew stronger. The investigation into Kristen's death quickly turned its focus on her husband, Colby. He willingly went to the police station for questioning, seemingly cooperative and eager to assist in any way he could. Colby explained that Kristen had struggled with depression for years, a lingering shadow from her troubled past. According to him, they had spent the evening playing video games, a common pastime for the couple. He claimed that he had gone to bed early, leaving Kristen still awake. In the early hours of the morning, Colby said he was abruptly awakened by a loud bang. Rushing to the bedroom, he found Kristen with a gunshot wound and a large revolver on her abdomen. He immediately called emergency services, reporting what he believed to be a suicide. However, his account, while detailed, began to unravel under closer scrutiny by the detectives. Colby's behavior on the night of the incident raised several red flags. He mentioned that upon discovering Kristen, he had placed the weapon on her abdomen. This action struck detectives as highly unusual and suspicious. Moreover, instead of staying by Kristen's side or attempting to administer any form of help, Colby waited outside for the police to arrive. This detachment seemed inconsistent with the actions of a distraught husband. Detectives also found inconsistencies in Colby's description of Kristen's mental state. While it was known that she had faced significant challenges in her past, friends and family described her as having been in good spirits recently, especially with the excitement of Halloween around the corner. During the interrogation, detectives pressed Colby on these discrepancies. His responses were measured but increasingly evasive. He reiterated his claims about Kristen's long-standing depression and their ordinary evening leading up to the tragedy. Yet, as the questioning continued, Colby's demeanor became more defensive, and he struggled to provide a coherent explanation for his actions after discovering Kristen. The investigation into Kristen's tragic end was far from over, and the interrogation of Colby was just the beginning of unraveling the complex web of events that led to her untimely death. Following Kristen Trickle's tragic death, a detailed forensic examination was conducted, revealing a single gunshot wound with no evidence of a struggle. Detectives meticulously scrutinized the scene for any indications of prior mistreatment but found no such evidence. Despite the lack of physical signs, suspicions surrounding Colby lingered, prompting investigators to delve deeper into Kristen's state of mind. A psychological autopsy, an unconventional investigative approach, was commissioned to shed light on Kristen's mental state. This methodical examination affirmed that Kristen had not contemplated taking her own life, challenging initial assumptions and steering the investigation towards uncovering the truth behind her untimely demise. In September 2023, the trial commenced with the prosecution highlighting Colby's contradictory statements and suspicious internet searches on life insurance payouts, along with his extravagant purchases following Kristen's death. The psychological autopsy played a crucial role, revealing Kristen's lack of suicidal intentions. After careful deliberation, the jury convicted Colby of first-degree premeditated homicide. He received a sentence of life imprisonment, eligible for parole after serving 50 years. Throughout the proceedings, Colby maintained his innocence, refusing to confess, and all subsequent appeals were dismissed, leaving Kristen's family and the community seeking closure and justice.